Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Bihari Ju ki Jai. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki Jai. Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta On Asto Tarazara Shishima Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta On Asto Tarazara Shishima Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta On Asto Tarazara Shishima Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta On Asto Tarazara Shishima Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Mahabhagavat Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Sakham Goswami Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Vibhushan Gauri Venkaracharya ki Jai. Srila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur ki Jai. Jai Artam Srinivas Sharanam Prabhu Traya ki Jai. Srila Vishnath Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhakti Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattada Saragana Sat Goswami Prabhu's ki Jai. Sarva Damodar Rai Ramananda Gaura Prasad ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haras Thakur ki Jai. Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai. Ananta Gaura Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Om Madhina Chamirandasya Dhyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Amritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taranaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Taravaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantam Anapaityam Apaityam Dvaikaya Viraha Tatara Ajivava Putre Kutam Mayataya Uttarabuvedistam Sarvagutam Nimanatoshmi Vinina Aparar Lakshay Chittashta Karmari Karanamadi Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Premdai Namaste Charanaravindam Bhajami Radam Aravindanetram Smarami Radam Madhurashnitasam Bhajami Radam Karanagaradam Tatum Manastikatena Chati. Can you hear me? Is the sound?
Very nice.
Huh?
It's too low.
Is that plugged in properly? Okay, maybe I'll just speak a bit louder and tell me if it's okay. And you'll have to speak louder too, Gokul. I don't know what the problem is. Sound still bad? Is it still bad? Maybe I'll just speak a bit louder.
Louder. We need to speak louder.
Huh?
We need to speak louder, Maharaj.
Okay, can you hear me now? Who's on the other end?
Gaura and Samjani.
Let me speak to them. No, I don't speak. Okay, so we're on the first 5 verses of the Pal Shruti. Kriti Vitayata Kata Dharma Namachale Bhagavata Kale Savat Vori Paripurna Chale.
As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, all the philosophies on earth that are celebrated as Dharma are utterly deceptive.
Okay, so we've been over that many times. Chale Dharma Chale Kale Satya Satyavati Chaturvarga Tyachitara Nitya Pachati.
One should completely abandon such deceptive dharmas and observe his mind in true dharma. In other words, one should give up the fourfold goals of material life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and aspire solely for the ultimate destination of nitya prem.
Yeah, these 4 goals of life we've said so many times, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, are relating to this material world, not to the transcendental world. The 5th Purusartha is prem. The Panch Purusartha is prem. So this is our objective, Nitya Prem. Ultimate destination of Nitya Prem. Amitva mimamsa brahme nicha jade buddhi.
Nirvishesha Brahma Jnane Chitta Shruti. Those who are deluded identify themselves with matter. That is their error. However, one cannot be purified of such delusion by endeavors for Nirvishesh Brahma Gyan.
Vichitra kahina hale nirvishesh hoy.
Samatule se aprakrita na. The Mayavadi thinks Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time such as birth and death and considers that he is not transcendental. Thus, he rejects Sri Bhagavan's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics, paraphernalia, qualities, and Leela. Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesh Brahmagyan.
So we've been discussing this in the 17th chapter and really unpacking it in the 18th chapter. What is a Mayavad, what is Vivartavad, etc. And they are deprived of appreciating the astonishing qualities. How tragic Krishna's personal qualities, that the Mayavad is he can't go in that route. So this is a tragedy. Krishna's pastimes are just so sweet, completely like his pastimes with Mother Yashoda, his pastimes with Nanda Baba, his pastimes with the Sakas, etc. Just such extraordinary pastimes, particularly his pastimes with the gopis. They can bring the heart level to such a high degree of sweetness and satisfaction. The sound is not coming still?
I think if you can hold it near.
Someone has to answer me then and tell me if it's better. They have to tell me, not you, they have to tell me if it's better. Tell me, Gora or whoever's phoning, if this sound is improved.
Such base and contemptible Gyan, which arises out of an attempt to dismember the divine form of Bhagavan, is only fit to be rejected. It is Prakrita and should never be given credence as Aprakrita Dharma.
So we need to know this distinction. This is the same, as I've said so many times, as the teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter in particular. What is matter, what is spirit? It's the first lesson in spiritual life, how to distinguish matter from spirit. So this verse is basically making this statement. This uppercut is pure transcendence, and the prakat is materialistic. So the distinction between matter and spirit has to be very much understood. Is someone answering you?
1 second.
Huh? The sound is still not good?
Yeah.
Let me speak to someone. Let me speak. I'll speak myself. Gora or Rasamandri, can you hear me now? Can you hear me more clearly now? Can you hear me now? Haribol. Answer me. We want to start the class.
Yes, this is better.
This is better.
This is better, Gurudev.
Okay. Okay. So we're up to page 425. Don't worry about it. I'll just speaking to the microphone.
422.
422. Okay, can you hear me now? Rasamanjari, can you please respond straight away and tell me whether you can hear me or not?
No.
Okay. So we're at the bottom of page 422. Rajana, what is the evidence that Priti is the ultimate goal for the Jiva? This is where we finished yesterday. I hope you can hear what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But will you be able to hear Gokul? You have to speak very loudly, Gokul.
Okay. Brajanath, what is the evidence that Preeti is the ultimate goal for the Jiva? Babaji, it is said in the Vedas, Prano hi esha ya sarva bhuther vibhati. Mundaka Upanishad. The Supreme Person is the life of all that lives. The Supreme Person is the life of all that lives, and He shines within all beings. Those who know that Supreme Personality by the signs of Bhakti do not look for anything else. Such Jivan Muktas are endowed with attachment for the Supreme, Rati, and they participate in His loving pastimes. Such Bhaktas are the best of all those who are in knowledge of Brahm.
So only this process of bhakti, not the process of mukti, karma or gyan, etc., is going to give us connection in activity to Krishna. It's when the soul becomes active. If the soul follows the path of gyan and merges into the Brahman, then where is going to be the activity in that place in his service to Krishna? It's just like an imaginary void situation. The jiva is not going to have a relationship. There's no sambandha gyan. Can they hear all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I read? I'll read and then you read the Sanskrit.
Okay.
In other words, the most fortunate of those who know Brahm associate with Krishna actively. That's what I was just saying. The activity has to be there for service to be a reality. Otherwise, it's just an imagination in the mind. So this activity is the only place that's going to please the jiva. Activity in his loving pastimes. This sentiment of rati is a symptom of love for Krishna. It is explained further in Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad.
Nava are sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati.
Yajnavalkya said, O Maitreyi, everyone is not dear to us because of their necessities. Rather, they are dear to us because of our own necessities. We are dear to people for our own needs. It's our own needs that we want to fulfill. We're not looking to fulfill the other person's needs. This indicates a very selfish type of love. This is the material, conditioned love, when I'm only concerned with my happiness. I'm not overly concerned with the others. I'm more concerned with my own satisfaction. It is evident from this mantra that Priti, love for the Supreme, is the only prayojan for the jiva. Baba, there are many examples of such statements in the Vedas. Srimad Bhagavatam and Taittiriya Upanishad.
Raso vai saha kohi evanyat kaha pranayat yad esha akash anando nasyat esha hi evanadyati.
The Parabrahm, Paramatma, is nectar personified. The jiva finds pleasure in associating with that nectarian Paramatma. And who could live if he was not present in the heart? It is Paramatma alone who gives bliss to the jiva. So this is representing Krishna. Krishna's energy within the jiva manifests as Kshirodakshai Vishnu, Paramatma. But Paramatma nevertheless is the relationship between the jiva and Paramatma. Paramatma is witnessing. Paramatma will never interfere with the jiva's independence, but once the jiva turns towards Paramatma with sambandha gyan, then relationship can manifest. If he's not depending on antaryami to interfere with his independence, the independence of the jiva has to be there for priti to manifest. Understand? The word anand, bliss, is a synonym for priti, affection. All living beings are in search of pleasure and bliss. A mumukshu believes that liberation is the ultimate pleasure, and that is why he is mad for liberation. The sense enjoyers, mumukshus, believe that the objects of sense gratification are the ultimate pleasure. That's karma kama, mukti. Or they pursue the objects of sense gratification. So they pursue the objects of sense gratification until the end of their lives. It is the hope of achieving pleasure that induces everyone to perform all his activities. So true, right? Everything we do is for our own pleasure. This selfishness is so close. So this is why devotional service is such a transformation of the consciousness. It doesn't happen immediately. When that selfishness gets replaced with a desire to please that supreme, this is completely a turnaround for the jiva's consciousness. It takes time and mercy, and it takes our practice. There's a practice, there's a science to actually turning around the consciousness. It doesn't happen instantly. It is the hope of achieving pleasure that induces everyone to perform all his activities. The bhaktas are also endeavoring for Sri Krishna's devotional service. In fact, everyone is looking for priti, so much so that they are even ready to sacrifice their lives for it. You see, like in soldiers and people like this, they sacrifice their lives apparently for their love of their country. Oh, I love my country so much, I'm ready to die for my country. So this is bewildered jiva. So much so that they are even ready to sacrifice their lives for it. In principle, everyone's ultimate aim is priti, and no one can disagree with this. Everyone is exclusively searching for pleasure. This is why this philosophy is not at all sectarian. It's about the individual soul present within every heart of all jivas in existence, and it's about all souls' principal desire, which is for happiness and bliss. All souls. You take any of the animals, the creatures, all the human beings, everyone is looking for this happiness. So our quest is to understand where is that supreme happiness, and what we're understanding, it is not in the material realm, because ultimately I am spirit. I am not material, so how can spirit enjoy matter? It's totally foreign. That matter has to become purified to an extent where the individual recognizes his spiritual identity. And then he has to realize, what is my spiritual relationship with Krishna? If he misses that section and just goes to, enjoy the spiritual atmosphere, then he can go to Brahm. But if he wakes up that sambandha gyan with Krishna, what can I do to please Krishna? If this recognition comes in the heart of the jiva, then all his fortune is there. So much so that they are even ready to sacrifice their lives for it. In principle, everyone's ultimate aim is priti, and no one can disagree with this. Everyone is exclusively searching for pleasure, whether they are believers or atheists, fruitive workers, karmis, jnanis, or whether they have desires or are desireless. However, one cannot achieve Priti simply by seeking it, simply by searching alone without association. Because that seed, that transcendental seed, must come from Guru into the heart. What does Guru impregnate into the jiva? This
Seva
Krishna Seva Vasana. He wakes up this Krishna Seva Vasana. This means the desire to please Krishna. That desire has to be woken up in the heart of the jiva. As soon as that desire wakes up, then his bhakti begins. But that can only be done by sadguru or sadhus, purified sadhus, etc. They can wake up that desire to please and serve Krishna. Then bhakti will manifest. The fruitive workers believe that celestial pleasures are the ultimate bliss, but it is explained in Bhagavad Gita.
Shine punye martyalokam vishanti.
After the residents of the gigantic celestial planets have completed the results of their good karma, they have to take birth again on the mortal earthly planets. The karmis who desire sense gratification constantly transmigrate from one planet to another in this way. This is how Abrahma Bhuvana Loka. The jivas are going up and down. Sometimes they're in Swaga, sometimes they're here, and sometimes they're in the lower regions. This is the nature.
What happens in Brahma Loka? Like, is there
You
like,
still have to come down. Oh, if you actually, he's asking what happens in Brahmaloka. I think you mean what happens in the Brahman.
yeah, is there
Yeah.
a connection?
So in the Brahman, you just remain there. If the Jnani achieves that absolute oneness with Krishna in the Brahman, he has to remain there forever, it's described, which is tragic. And he stays in a state called Shantaras, complete neutrality. He has no hankering, no desires, nothing. But he has no relationship. This is in the Brahma Jyoti. Is this what you mean?
But Lord Brahma is there?
No. Satyaloka. Lord Brahma is in Satyaloka.
Satyaloka.
Yes, that's a different. So, if you go as high as the Janaloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka, these higher planetary systems, you still have to return here. Because the demigods, they still have to connect with that Sadguru, that person in transcendence. Everyone can hear? You still have to connect with transcendence. Lord Brahma is a conditioned soul also. Lord Brahma, he's in this material world. He's creating this material world. He has his connection with Garuda Bhakshai Vishnu, but he's still a resident of this material world. Actually, it's described in this particular Lord Brahma. He is a pure devotee and he will go back to Krishna in this life, at the end of this birth. His lifespan is enormous. But at the end of his lifespan, he will go back to Krishna, this particular Brahman.
Vaikuntha,
Huh?
where Vaikuntha or Gola?
Vaikuntha.
Aishwarya.
Yes, Aishwarya, fully. That's his Staibhav. If your Staibhav is of that nature, that's where you will return, that's where you will go to. It depends on your Staibhav. Lord Brahma, he's associating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Haridas Thakur. That's what he desired, to take birth in a low-class family and serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But his destination as Haridas Thakur, as an eternal servant of Krishna in that instance, is Swaitadvi. Whereas as Lord Brahma, then his destination is Vaikuntha. So, which Lord Brahma doesn't give up his identity to become Haridas. A portion of his identity becomes Haridas. And then that Haridas has his separate Swarup. That Haridas has his Swarup in Swaitadvi. That Haridas also is a part of Prahlad Maharaj. He's not Prahlad Maharaj, he's a part of Prahlad Maharaj. Like Haridas is not Lord Brahma, he's a part of Lord Brahma. They have that, those qualities of Lord Brahma and of, this is my understanding. If somebody wants to correct me and make it more clear, they're welcome to enlighten me. But certainly a Nitya Siddhaparika of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Haridas Thakur, and he associated so much with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, then his destination will be Svetadvip. Svetadvip is that prakosht, that chamber where Mahaprabhu has his pastimes. Golok, Gokul, is where Brajendranandan Shamsundar has his pastimes. They're two different chambers, they're not the same. There's differences between Svetadvip is all the parikas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Goloka Vrindavan are all the parikas of Krishna, Brajendranandan Shamsundar, and Dwarka are all the parikas of Dwarkadish, and Mathuresh Krishna is in Mathura. These are different prakoshts or chambers within the spiritual sky. Understand? Actually, you will discover that by reading that Kriya Bhagavad.
Maharaj, it's in this situation, it means two person, two soul in one body.
Two swarups, yes,
Two swarups,
yes.
Sometimes.
That's
because
not very.
sometimes
This is not very common.
Oh.
It's like the only other person we think of immediately is Narada Muni. He has four swarups in one body. He's also Srivas Thakur, he's Naradiya Gopi, he's Narada Muni, and he's Madhu Mangal. All four of these are. This is very rare.
But I'm asking about Haridas Thakur. It's one the same time Lord of Brahm.
No, he
No.
has a part. He doesn't become Lord Brahma. He's not Lord Brahma. He
Yeah.
has a part of his. Lord Brahma still has his service in this material world. So when he manifests a part of himself as Haridas Thakur, it's not his complete, still his service has to go on here. You understand? Lord Brahma is still here, but a portion of him is within Haridas Thakur.
It's like Vidur and
And
Dharma.
Yamaraj, yes,
It's the same.
yes.
This
correct.
majority of the Panchatattvas are like that, no man. Two. Like two personalities are combined. Vishnu and Sadashiva is Advaitacharya.
Yes, yes, yes.
And,
Advaitacharya also.
Nityananda is Balram and Ananga Manjari.
Yes, they manifest as different personalities. They are one personality. In that case, it's different. It's different to Lord Brahma. This is different, what you're saying. This is not the same.
Okay.
Nityananda Ram, he is that one personality in that one form. Ananga Manjari, they are one form. And Mahavishnu is like that one form coming as Advaitacharya. In that case, it's Advaitacharya and Sadashiva. They directly manifest as Advaitacharya. But with Haridas Thakur, it's a partial aspect of Lord Brahma, manifesting in the body of Haridas Thakur. And the same as Prahlad. He's a portion of Prahlad.
I've got one more question. Here it is saying, however, one cannot achieve Preeti simply by seeking it.
Yes, you need to have some outside infusion. If you just sit alone in a room seeking it, you won't get it because you have to have the association.
For example, for Rag Bhakti, the only qualification is greed, they say.
Yes, but that greed for association. If you've got greed but you don't have association, you don't have direction, you don't have Sadguru to direct you, how will that Krishna Seva Vasana manifest? You can't have bhakti without the bhakta. So you can't seek it. If you're just looking for it without association, this is what it means. You can't just have it exclusively just by praying for it. You have to come in contact with the person who has it. Understand? only when they fall from the celestial planets. A person may begin to covet the pleasures of the heavenly planets again when he fails to find pleasure in the wealth, children, fame, and power that is available in the world of human beings. However, while he is falling from the celestial worlds, he adopts a respectful attitude towards an even greater happiness than that of Swarga, the heavenly planets. He becomes indifferent to the pleasures of the human worlds, the celestial planets, and even the higher planets up to Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is still in this world, but that person falling may have the mercy, may have the presence of consciousness to appreciate the flickering, temporary nature of all the pleasures in all of these worlds. This is what he's saying. At this point, some real creeper may manifest in the heart of that jiva. When he understands that they are all temporary, and that their happiness is also not fixed or eternal. When we're sitting in this world, we may imagine Swagaloka, we imagine Brahmaloka, we may read about these places, and then we understand that the pleasures that are described there, which are extraordinary compared to the pleasures here, they are subtle worlds. Extraordinary pleasures are there. But the jiva in this world, if he comes in contact with a sadguru, having sadhu sangha, then he can appreciate the temporary nature of all these higher planetary systems. None of them will give the actual eternal ingredient that the jiva is really crying out for. He's really crying out for this eternal, to last forever. Just some temporary birth is not sufficient in the discerning jiva, in the thinking jiva. This temporary, anything that is temporary, this is divorced from the true nature of the soul. We want to be connected with the soul. That's why in this life we want to do everything that will benefit the soul. If something is not benefiting the soul, if I'm doing some soulless job and it's not benefiting my soul, I should consider, why am I doing this activity? Every single activity we perform should be benefiting the soul. And if I'm doing something that's not, I should wake up and consider to change it or to refocus my attention. Like in the family, for example, if I'm bringing up my children, I should focus on them becoming good devotees exclusively. But if I'm simply working 8-9 hours a day at some job and it's not doing any benefit for my soul, the benefit might be that you're supporting your household and so on. Okay, but this depends on our adhikar, whether we're able to actually follow through on the desire to only satisfy the soul in this life. Nothing else should be in our minds except that point, to satisfy the soul. And then all these material worlds, are they getting the sound? All these material worlds, these temporary, become understood to be just material and temporary. So why should I make any extra endeavor for some? When I seek the welfare of my soul exclusively, this means I take full shelter of Krishna, the Supreme Master of this world. And he, by his potency, will make a situation available for me to cultivate that focus. If I have absolute faith that Krishna can do that, he will do that. But if our faith is more in the material realm, we will be frightened, fearful of the material situation. I'll think, oh, I have to run out and work. Otherwise the sky will drop on my head or something. Otherwise I will just die if I don't work. But if I cultivated knowledge of Krishna, even to some degree, and realize he is the supreme controller. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matahar sarvam pravartante. Krishna is the controller of all the material and spiritual worlds. Krishna creates planets, he destroys them, and he makes them again in a fraction of a second. What can't he do for that sincere bhakta who wants to develop his Krishna consciousness? He can make any arrangement. But we have to have a little bit of faith in that. Be absolutely sure of that. And Krishna will provide. But if our faith is weak, then we'll take shelter of the material energy and think, oh, I have to work very hard and stuff like that. And take shelter of Maya, ultimately. He understands that they are all temporary and that their happiness is also not fixed or eternal. So why should we waste our time there? Intelligent people will wake up to their real identity as spirit souls. This is the first aspect of our spiritual journey. These are all the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Throughout Bhagavad Gita. Dehino Shminyata Dehi, Komaram Yavaranja. So many verses are referencing this. Put the soul's welfare on the front burner of your life, and then your life will be fully successful. He then becomes renounced and starts to investigate Brahm Nirvana. Okay. And endeavor earnestly for impersonal liberation. This is the only option if you have rejected Swagaloka and you've rejected all the pleasures of this world. Then you go for this Brahma Nirvana. It's impersonal happiness or impersonal liberation, right? This is why we have to be under guidance. Unless we have a guru, unless we have sadhu sangha, we'll go that route. Because, continuing from what he said previously, we're talking about priti, we're talking about love. The soul wants to find love. He's not finding it in Swaga, so where will he look? In the Brahman. In Brahman, Brahm Nirvana. That's where he'll look. However, when he sees that impersonal liberation also lacks bliss, there is a degree of bliss in it's called Brahm Anand. That Brahm Anand exists in the Brahma Jyoti. But that is absolutely nothing compared to Prem Anand, or Hari Bhajan Anand, or Vaikuntha Anand, or Gokul Anand. The bliss is trillions and trillions and trillions of times greater in the full active. You see, in the Brahma Jyoti we're not active. It's just like a stone, inactive. But in the spiritual world we have activity, seva, to either Narayan, Dwarkadish, or Brajendranandan Shamsundra, or to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, depending on which prakosht we desire, we want to go to, and our swarup, our nature, our staiva. When he sees that impersonal liberation also lacks bliss, he takes an unbiased tatashta position and searches for another path that will enable him to achieve priti or pleasure. How is it possible to experience priti in impersonal liberation? Who is the personality who is supposed to experience such bliss? Huh? If you annihilate yourself, like Prabhu was saying the other day, suicide, you've more or less committed suicide, then who's the one experiencing the bliss in the Brahm Nirvana? He's saying, who is supposed to experience such bliss? If I lose my identity, who will exist to experience Brahm? The very concept of the bliss of Brahm is meaningless, because whether there is pleasure in Brahm or not, the theory of impersonal liberation does not admit that anyone actually exists in the liberated state to enjoy such pleasure. There's no activity there. It's completely neutral. Huh?
There's no individuality.
No. Your individuality is being cooked. It's been annihilated. Because who are you developing your individuality to have a relationship with? If it's the impersonal Brahm, then there's going to be no reciprocation there. So basically you just commit spiritual suicide. That's what happens when you go to the Brahman. That's why it's so dangerous going into that realm. If you think, oh, I'll just go and check out the Buddhists for a little while, and you get into some, what's it called, Vipassana, like this, and you go and you think, oh yes, it's very peaceful, I'm very happy now. But how long will that happiness last, and what is the quality of that happiness? Where is the relationship in that happiness? This is the point. It's incredibly selfish.
Is there interaction with other souls?
Huh?
Interactions with other souls in the...
No, with Krishna. With Krishna.
Yeah.
With Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Soul. He's the Supreme One that we want to have relationship with. Other souls may or may not be there, but it's with Krishna. But the spiritual world is packed with spiritual personalities. So we will have relationship with other personalities, but the principle is Krishna and service to him. Actually, our principle is Radha. The principle is service to Radha. It's not about chummy friends. It's about service to Krishna.
So in the Brahman, it's just you yourself?
No, in the Brahman it's only you.
No.
It's an impersonal atmosphere. Krishna's not sitting in the Brahman. His effulgence is sitting in the Brahman, but he's not sitting there as a personality. And only by connecting with him as a personality is your soul going to become to complete happiness, total emancipation. Only when it connects with Krishna. Only then. Or Radha. Meaningless, because whether there is pleasure in Brahm or not, the theory of impersonal liberation does not admit that anyone actually exists in the liberated state to enjoy such pleasure. So what conclusion can be drawn from such a doctrine? If I cease to exist when I am liberated, then my individuality is lost along with my existence. Nothing pertains to me anymore by which I can experience bliss or pleasure. I have no way of experiencing it. Even though there is bliss. Shantaras, it's there, neutrality, nothing. Nothing exists for me if I myself do not exist. If I don't exist, then what else can exist, right? Someone may say, I am Brahmrup. I am the form of Brahm. However, this statement is false, because the I, who is Brahmrup, is Nitya, eternal. In other words, if one says that he is Brahm, then he is also eternal. In that case, everything is useless for him, including the process of attaining perfection, sadhan, and perfection itself, siddhi. Therefore, priti is not to be obtained in Brahm nirvana. Try to understand this very clearly and carefully. These are subtle points that at some point in our life, this attraction may arise. If you're not feeling successful in your sadhan bhajan, you may be deflected and look for the impersonal path. And you may get a brief taste of some relief, some type of pleasure. But that is very temporary also. It's not going to touch your eternal soul. Even if it is perfect, it is something that is not experienced, like a flower growing in the sky. It's completely fictitious ultimately. Bhakti is the only path by which the jiva can attain his true goal. Bhakti means devotion, devotion, devotion. Devotion is the sweetest place. Devotion is what we read and we hear the gopis being described with. Ramya Kachit Upasana Braja Varadur Vargena Vakalpite. The gopis are the embodiment of devotion, Upasana. They're the embodiment of this devotion. And the bliss, but it's not bliss, it's the service that the bhakta is focused on. If the bliss happens or doesn't happen, that is a secondary consideration when one actually comes fully to the path of bhakti. He's not concerned with if I get bliss. The gopis were not concerned whether they got bliss or not, they were only concerned with pleasing Krishna. That was the heart of their desire, to please Krishna. I've left my own desires behind. We can't imagine it. It's totally selfless. When we're engrossed in this conditioned consciousness, we're totally engrossed in selfish motivations and mentality. Completely. From childhood. From many births. Self-centered. This is the perversion of the material world, of the conditioned world. The perversion is that it's selfish. But the spiritual world is selfless. That is the real sadhu. He becomes selfless in his quest to please Bhagavan. In our case, to please the gopis. Only Mahaprabhu has given us this secret. Only Mahaprabhu has come and given us this clearly. If Mahaprabhu hadn't come, if Rupa Goswami hadn't come, we wouldn't know the nature of this Braja Ras, this Braja Prem. We wouldn't know the nature of the Gopis Prem. We wouldn't have any idea of the Gopis Prem. It was only Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy. Prior to that, Krishna only came to taste his own Prem. Leela Purushottam. He was relishing the Leela. And he relieved the world of the burden of the warring armies, etc. simultaneously. That was necessary. He had to do like that. But he wasn't giving this pretty in the same way that Mahaprabhu is giving it. Mahaprabhu is giving this Ragmad. Ragmad Bhakti Loke Karite Prachan. He's giving this. Mahaprabhu is so merciful, magnanimous, completely Mahaprabhu. He's come just to get, he's come to taste his own prem. He's come to taste those special moods in Sri Radha, that Mahima, that greatness of Radha, Sri Radhaya Praniya Mahima Kidisho, etc. These three desires of Mahaprabhu, Sokyam, Kasyam, Mad Anubhavita, the happiness that Radharani experiences. He's come to taste this Adiruddha Mahabhav. But simultaneously, he's come to benedict the jivas with service to this mood, service to this Unnata Ujvala Prem. This is extraordinary. Mahaprabhu has come to give this. No other avatar came to give this. The other avatars, they came for different specific purposes. To relieve the earth, to kill Hiranyakashipu, to kill Hiranyaksha, etc., to support the demons churning the ocean of milk, etc. So many different reasons why Krishna manifests, but only Mahaprabhu manifests to give this extraordinary understanding of Ragmarg, which is encapsulated in Parakiya Ras. Without understanding Parakiya Ras, you can't understand Braja Prem. You can't begin to understand the nature of the gopis. It's all hinged around this conception or this reality of Parakiya Ras. Not marital. Marital is in Dwarka. Let me finish here because I'm hoping that we're going to... Well, we're not going to finish today. We've got... Yes, no, we might. Yes. Okay. Bhakti is the only path by which the jiva can attain his true goal. The final stage of bhakti is prem, which is eternal. The pure jiva is eternal. Pure Krishna is eternal. And pure love for him is eternal. Three things. Pure jiva, pure Krishna, and pure love for Krishna, prem, is eternal. Consequently, one can only attain the perfection of true love in eternity when he accepts the truth of Achintya Veda Abeda. This is what the whole chapter is about. This final paragraph is the conclusion of the entire topic. That by engaging in this eternal service to the Lord, the jiva's highest welfare is going to be available. And this is only given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, the ultimate goal of the jiva, which is love for the Supreme, becomes non-eternal. If you're just going to the Brahmajyoti, etc. And the existence of the jiva is also lost. If it's anything other than bhakti, the existence of the jiva is lost. Therefore, all the Shastras accept and confirm the doctrine of Achintya Abheda Abheda. Achintya Bheda Abheda. All other doctrines are simply speculation. Speculation. We should listen to Sadguru. We should listen to the Sadhu. We should listen to Shastra. Shastra has been benedicted to us by the rishis and sages to guide the bewildered conditioned souls out of the darkness of this Maya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Swadharma Bhajate Dharmajanadi Visaha Kalana Sota Shamisha Purana Kodanodita. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun and has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Men who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of this age. I don't think anyone can refute that this age is completely dark, crazy, full of demons, shall get light from this Bhagavad Purana. So we take shelter of that Bhagavad Purana. We take shelter of Jaiva Dharma. We take shelter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. We take shelter of the sadhus. We take shelter of Sadguru. We take shelter of our Guru, Rupanuga Guru Vargya. That is the only place we have. And then we will have the ultimate shelter of that spiritual realm of Sri Radhika. Rajanath returned home in a blissful state of mind, deeply absorbed in thoughts about pure spiritual love. So that's the end of the 18th chapter, and that's brought us up to our time limit for today. So I hope it's been clear with the audio, and tomorrow we'll begin a Veda Tattva, but this 18th chapter is so profound and so sacred and so special. It's so deep, we really have to focus and apply ourselves. I was mentioning today this beautiful verse, Yato Mahanti Bhutani, that these 5 material elements, earth, water, fire, air and ether, they have their own existence, but they also exist within the bodies of all jivas. All jivas have their constitution based on earth, water, fire, air and ether. All jivas. But earth, water, fire and air and ether also have their own existence. So similarly with Krishna, Krishna has his own swarup, but simultaneously he's also residing in the heart of all jivas. Simultaneously. So this is how we can understand it. We can understand, we can have realization. My body is made of earth, water, fire and air, right? My body is made of that. But those elements have their own separate identity and existence, separate from my body. Krishna also has his own separate existence, as well as he's in my body. Try to understand these conceptions. Krishna is fully within us as Antaryami, Paramatma, Super Soul. He's fully there. This is Krishna's. We could not live without Super Soul, without Paramatma. Super Soul actually is the son of Nityananda. This is Virabhadra. Virabhadra is the son of Nityananda, and he is Kshirodakshai Vishnu. His eternal identity is Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So many different things. But I hope you understood the conclusion of Priti is this selfless love, in contradiction to the selfish love, which is the world that the conditioned souls live in. So this requires practice and sadhana to achieve the mercy to realize these truths. We want the mercy to realize these truths. These are not just book descriptions. Please don't take it like that. This is like an armchair philosophy or something. Oh yes, entertaining the muscles of the mind. No, it's die to live. I must have this realization. I must have this connection in my life and live our lives for the welfare of our souls, and then all our fortunes will manifest. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. We just have to thank the higher powers for giving us full Wi-Fi and electricity today. Today here it's been pouring with rain. for the last 5-6 hours. And it was just amazing how we even managed to come on. But somehow or other, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making this arrangement for us to hear his presentation of Jaiva Dharma for our greatest welfare. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, gold frame and Dili and Dili, Panchatopa Drubhyascha, Kripa Sundhavya, Patitanam Pavi, Vaishnavi,